Yeah, welcome to my class today. The topic we want to look at today is on variable. But before we begin, I want to quickly show you some things about the computer system. Now we are going to look at the computer memory. We are going to look at the hard disk. We are going to look at the processor. And then I'm just going to give you a brief explanation as to how the Python interpreter communicate with all these component parts to make your program run effectively. Let me just quickly show you how that works. Now, this is what you have in your house. This is the box, computer box, which is the central processing unit that you look at. Now, this is the screen that enables you to see what is happening inside here. This is your keyboard and this is your mouse. This is what you have typically in your house. Now, this memory is inside here. And this is the hard disk that's also inside here. I'm going to show you these two components. Inside this box, there's what you call a motherboard. This is the motherboard that is inside that box. This is another type of it. This is another type. Now, this is where you have the processor. You can see this is like designed like a city. So this is the hardware that you are seeing that is like a city. So this is where you have the processor. Now, this is where you have the memory, as you can see this labeling. So let's see. Now, this hard disk, this is the inside of the hard disk. This is the outside. So you see people holding this, but this is how it is on the inside. Now, this is the memory that is plugged into a slot on that motherboard. Now, this is the processor. This is the guy that does the work, really. Now, look at how it is like when you slot it into the motherboard. You see the design. This is what you see when you on your computer system. You see your screen like this, and you see several icons on this screen. This hard drive is where you have everything. This is like saying permanent residence for your operating system, your applications, and your data, your software. Everything is inside here. It's inside this hard drive. Now, the moment you put on your computer system, you press the power button. Those things, before they can function, will be loaded into this memory. So you have like 3 layers. Now you have the hardware layer, which is like this part that you are looking at, this part, the hardware. Now you have the second layer, which is the OS, which is the operating system. When you boot your computer system, you see it booting. So you have the OS, which could be Microsoft, or it could be Linux, depending on which one you are using, and it can even be Mac. So that is what you have as the second layer, which is the OS layer. Then you have the application layer, which is the third layer. Now, your Python interpreter is an application, right, that is going to communicate with the operating system in order to communicate with the hardware. Your processor is at the hardware level, but there is the software part to it. So the software is bind to the hardware. Now, that is how your computer is structured. So today we are going to look at the variable. What is variable in Python programming? I told you we are living in a multiverse, but when you are looking at the programming, there is actually an interaction between all the various dimensions that are in this multiverse, and they are happening at a very fast speed. So you don't know. Sometimes when you are looking at your computer screen, you think you're just looking at one part, but there are so many activities going on. So there is the hardware layer. They speak their own language, which is 0 and 1. Very difficult for you to understand. Then you have the OS layer, and then you have the application layer. So we are going to look at how they connect, right? That is what I want to show you today. So we are looking at variable. So the reason why I have to show you this is because when I'm talking about variable and I'm talking about memory, you just be able to picture what I'm trying to say. That is why I had to show you this. So let's get right into our topic today, which is what? Variable. This is our PyCharm, which we are using to communicate with our Python world. So what we are going to look at today is variable, and we are going to see how this variable work. And as I'm explaining this variable to you, I will be linking it to the physical dimension, which is those hardware parts that I've just shown to you. And then you look at the screen. I told you the screen, nothing really happens there. It is just a projection for you to see what is happening inside the real world. Do you understand me? So when you look at these our physical dimension, this is not the earth, right? We have like the element, which is water, we have air, we have fire, then we have earth. They are all combined, and we are seeing their combination in this projection, which is the screen. Now, these various dimensions have their activities going on. So same thing applies with this computer system. We are going into the Python world. Now we have our interface, which is what? The IDE that we are using to communicate with it. Now I have launched it. We've opened it. So we are going to write a program. And then we are going to create variables. We are going to see how this variable work and the data that are inside this variable, how we use them in our program. So let's get right in. Now, I am going to use the console method first and foremost, which is what? I told you we have two modes, which is the script mode and the interactive mode. So let's look at the interactive mode clearly. So I launch my console. So this is for the interactive mode. Now, assuming I want to work, I told you that programming is all about data in one hand and code in the other hand. If I need data to use, the moment I create those data, a memory address location will be created for those data to be stored. I can find out the address of this data, but this address, the format in which it's going to come out, which is 0 and 1, I will not remember it to use in my programming. Now, I have to give a name to that address so that every time I'm going to write my program, I can just easily call that name, and whatever it is in that name will be used in my program. That makes it easier. So that is what we are going to do. So in this interactive mode, I'm just going to give a number, for example. For example, I say 10, right? When I say 10, I press enter. Now it is executed. So the Python interpreter has already allocated a memory space for this 10. That is what it means. So I can find the address of this 10. Now, to find the address of this 10, in Python, there is a function that I can call to tell me the address of this 10, and that is the ID function. So ID, then I'm going to supply 10 to it. So I'm going to say, show me the address of this 10. Now, this is the address of this 10. Can you see? This is the address of that 10. As soon as I supply this data, the interpreter created a memory location inside my memory, which I showed you earlier. And this is the address. Now, there is no way I will remember this address to be calling when I'm writing my program so that I can get 10. It will be very difficult. I can't supply this address to my print function to display this 10 on the screen for me. So what do? I now have to declare a variable and assign this address. So which means the moment I declare a variable and assign this 10 to that variable is going to carry this same address. So next time in my program, when I want to call this 10, I need this 10 to use in my program. I'm not going to reference this address. I'm not going to call it. I don't have to remember this address, but I can remember that variable. So I will give a name that is very okay with what I am doing so that I can be able to use it. Now, this is how your name came about. Your physical body in this realm has been created as a memory location. There are so many programs in it. Now, if I'm going to call you, if you are needed, it will be difficult for me to reference your physical body. So what do? I have to give a name. That was how my father gave me that name, Etete. So that name is the variable name that is attached to me. So it is bind with me. So anytime Etete is called, there is a function that is required. So once you call Etete, a particular function is to be executed. There is the software part. So the binding of my name, of the name to this physical structure, this is the physical memory that is holding certain things, holding data or holding codes. Now, that name that is attached to it is the variable that once you call that name, those programs that are kept, or the data that is kept in that place, will have to be used in the program. So that is how it works. So this is the concept of your naming, and that is what variable is all about. So now I have given data, which is 10, and a memory location has been created for this data, which is this. Now I'm going to create a variable and assign to this. So I can now say, I will say A equals 10. Now I've declared the variable A, and I'm assigning this 10 to this variable. So automatically, this A is going to carry the same address as this 10, which is here. So I will press my enter button. Right? So you can see it on this side. So A equals to 10, and the data type of this variable is what? Integer. That is what is showing me here. Now, I want to find out the address of this A, and you will see that the address will be the same as this initial address. So I'm going to call my ID function, which will tell me the address of A. So ID, then I will supply A to it, and then I'll press enter. Now, can you see? Look at this. Look at this value and this value. They are the same, which is 126.09.24.74.896. So you can see that the address of A and the address of 10, they are the same. Because now, if I want to write my program, if I want to use A for anything, so I want to say print A, I'm just going to call my print function. Then I'll say print, and then I will supply A as the parameter to it. What is going to come out? It's going to print 10 for me. That is what is going to come out. Now, when I press enter, see, it's showing me 10. So, meaning what the interpreter does, the moment you supply that data, is that the interpreter will go to the physical memory and allocate an address, a space there for the data to be kept. Because that data will be needed when the program is running. The processor is the one that is going to actually do that work based on the instruction given to it by the interpreter. So what happens is that you supply that 10, the interpreter will go to the memory space and allocate an address for that 10. Then it will now call the processor to go ahead and carry out a particular calculation. Maybe you will say 10 times 20. That will give you 200. Now, that calculation will be done by the processor based on the instruction given to it by the interpreter. So the interpreter is the interpreter is like a conductor in an orchestra, right? He's just coordinating everybody, coordinating the operating system, coordinating the memory, coordinating the processor. So that is the interpreter. So the interpreter looks at your code, your source code, and then interprets it line by line by giving instruction to the processor. Go to the memory, pick this data, and carry out this for me. But the real guy that does that calculation is what? The processor. That is how it works. So now memory has been created, data has been supplied, memory has been created, and then I have declared a variable and assigned that variable the value to that variable. So A and 10 are now carrying the same address. So I can now use it in my in my program. That is the concept of variable. So that is just what I want to share with you in this class. Now in the next class, I'm going to teach you how to declare a variable. So till then, see you in the next class.